another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a common challenge that I hear from clients. Sometimes we find something that we would like to change in our workplace, and we might think, one, it's not our job to fix it, or two, that we don't have the authority to fix it. It's very often that clients come to me and say, I see this issue. I really think that something should change here, but I just don't have the authority to make the decisions. And they kind of take their hands off and feel like it's really outside of their control. There's nothing they can do. And I have always totally disagreed with that because I feel like if you have ideas for improvement, ideas of ways that you can change things, whether it's fixing communication, systems, morale, you might feel stuck because you don't have positional power or authority to make a decision. But I feel that real leadership begins with responsibility without authority. So when you start to take ownership of things and start to really try to make a difference before the power has ever been given to you because of a title, to me, that is more powerful leadership. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. If you've ever seen something that you think can be done better and you've thought, it's not my job to fix it, or I can't do that, I truly can't fix it because I'm not entitled to be able to fix that, then this episode is definitely for you. This episode is called Leading from the Middle, and hopefully today we can talk through some strategies to help you lead more effectively no matter where you find yourself within an organization. You know that I've talked about from the very beginning of this podcast series that John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that exact sentence, that exact quote is what so profoundly changed the way that I saw leadership. And I felt like I could really make a difference for the first time. I can have an impact from right where I am. So I've been thinking about the myth of the title, this myth that the title is what grants you authority, that now you've been promoted, now you have authority to make a change within your organization for the better. So really there's a difference. There's positional power where you are given a title and now you are able to make these changes. You have the authority to. And people follow people of positional power because they have to, not always because they want to. But when we have relational authority or relational power, you're more likely to want to follow that person. You're more likely to connect with them, see that they want to make a difference, and follow them. It's a choice, right? And so sometimes we rely on this hierarchy within leadership, and people come to the table with ideas, but because they don't have power yet, they hold back. Maybe they've shared something before, they didn't feel heard, or nothing ever changed, so they start holding back and feel like they can't make a difference. So there's really a gap here, there's a need here, and I really feel like these middle leaders, or people that are even just coming to an organization for the first time and seeing it for the first time, can be real catalysts for change, and not because of rank, but because of the way in which they approach it, the way in which they build relationships with the people around them and modify and model those behaviors. So I want to talk about influence a little bit further. So I mentioned relational power a minute ago. So influence comes over time. When we talk about influence, we're talking about being able to build trust, being consistent with who you are so it's predictable and people see your patterns in behavior, and you're a credible source. So we can build relationships, stronger relationships, when we build trust, when we're consistent with who we are, and when we start to have credibility. And that relationship is also built through empathy and connection and follow through. So to me, it has a lot to do with your character and who you are. So if you are coming to the table with ideas and you are someone who has built a relationship, and people see your character and know that you have the organization or the team's best interests at heart, and people are able to see that you are working for the good of everyone and you want everyone to be bought into a cause, that is going to be so much more powerful than waiting until you have power or authority over someone else to make a change. So when people trust your motives, people are going to more likely follow your ideas. Sometimes you have great influence because of your expertise. So not just because you have great character and you're reliable and you're consistent in who you are, but because of your background, your experience, your knowledge. So think about this as your competencies that you come to the table with. So are you new to an organization? Maybe you've worked in a similar industry elsewhere. You've seen how things are done in a different environment. And so you can see some blind spots that this organization might have. So if you come to a new organization and you immediately jump in and start saying, but this is how we did it there, that's not going to go over well. That's not going to be a great approach. I've seen many times that people don't react well to this. Well, if you liked it so much, well, why don't you go back there? I've heard that so many times. So that approach isn't going to work. However, your credibility, your experience within the industry can be very powerful and can have great influence, because if you are able to deliver excellence in what you do without the ego tied to it, then that is something that people are going to pick up on. They're going to notice the small things that you're doing, the little things that you bring to the table, whether it's a best practice, whether it's just some small wins that you are able to help the team with not long after you join. And so when you think about the combination of your character and doing what's right, no matter who's looking, making sure that you are living out your values, when you combine that with expertise and experience, it's much more powerful in being able to make a difference no matter where you are in the organization. So where is your strength? Is your strength in the character piece? And being able to be consistent in who you are, no matter the environment you find yourself in, and being trustworthy? Or is it in the competencies? Think about your relationship with your peers at this time. Or is it both? Maybe it is a combo of both. But just something to kind of reflect on. So when we think about what gets in the way of being able to move forward with these new ideas that you have, some people never bring them up because they don't want to step on anyone's toes. So maybe, you're not in a position of leadership at this time, and you feel like it is important that you're respectful of the person who is leading you, who is your supervisor, and you think it might backfire if I bring up my concerns. You don't know what the reaction might be. Will there be a falling out? So that can be a barrier in not wanting to overstep or not wanting to have a falling out because someone feels that you're being critical of them rather than seeing that you are just trying a different approach. Or maybe it's self-doubt that prevents you from bringing it up. Maybe you're thinking, who am I to suggest this idea? You convince yourself that you shouldn't bring it up. Maybe it's, I don't feel like I've been here long enough, or I don't feel like I have good enough relationships here. And you just don't have the confidence to be able to move forward with what you believe is right. That could sometimes get in the way. But when we think about what we can do with the power and authority that we have, once you build the confidence in coming forward and sharing your expertise, you do start to see a pretty quick change in the way people see you when you are creating those small wins. It doesn't have to be something major. You don't have to come in and change an entire system or start a whole new project or initiative that's never been done before. It can be something very small, and people start to see those patterns and small behaviors that end up leading to greater trust in you. So I highly recommend just taking initiative within your circle. Start in your smaller team unit. Don't think about the organization and huge changes that you want to make, because the culture of the entire organization is maybe toxic in your opinion and something has to change. Well, don't start at the highest level and try to change the entire culture of the organization. What could it look like to start small and just change the culture within your immediate teammates? So start with your sphere and think about one small influence that you could make. To me, I think the most powerful way to influence is to model the behavior you wish to see. So I see behaviors all the time that I don't agree with. I just had this conversation yesterday with Matthew that there's been a series of unprofessional behaviors that I've seen in just the past month or so. And I said to him, I'm starting to think that my definition of professionalism and others is very, very different. Very different. And I was reflecting on, what do I do about that? And honestly, the thing that I just continue to do is model what I think is appropriate, and people might notice that. People might pick up on that. That behavior can be very contagious to the people around you. We know that our behaviors can influence people. They say that we are the combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Well, if you're spending time with your peers on a regular basis and you're modeling that behavior, over time it's going to slowly influence or impact them. So model exactly what you hope to see. So if it's a communication issue and people aren't following up, people aren't closing the loop on communication, show them how you are properly closing the loop. You don't have to tell them that's what you're doing. Let the results speak for themselves so they can see what's happening when this person over here is doing it in comparison to when I am. So what does success look like? What are the results that we're seeing? Or if morale is low and people are down, can you be the person on the team who comes in with hope and optimism and brings joy and celebrates the small wins? And that part is contagious. You find ways to bring joy to everyone's day, or you notice that people are being negative and you try to model reframing it, helping them to see a different way to look at a situation. So there are tons of examples that we could use, but no matter what the example is, it can just start with a very small behavior that other people start to notice and see the impact that it's having. I think that powerful questions can also be a great strategy here. So if you see a problem and you would like to invite the team to work together towards a solution, can you ask a question that elicits some feedback and some responses that helps the team to reflect on ways in which they can improve? I am a very reflective person, so I'm constantly asking questions. What's going well? What do I need to change? Where do I need to focus my energy? What habits do I need to remove, or new habits I need to create? So that is my self-reflection, but how can I bring that reflection to the team and ask a powerful question that gets everybody thinking about what is going well and what are some things we need to change? If you are not coming and pointing out the flaws, then and you just do it as an open reflection, then people might start to reflect a little more themselves and start to see some of the things that you're noticing without you having to directly say what's going on. It could be a simple, reflection on how can we make this process easier for our team. You're not telling them that there's a problem. You are not telling them that they need to change it, but you're saying that there might be a way that we can make it easier for our team. Well, I would want to buy into something if you're telling me it's going to make it easier for my team. So people might generate some ideas. If you are bringing an idea forward and you really want to see something change, I've always thought it was important to, if you're coming to the table with a problem, to also come to the table with a solution. So if you are trying to lead up and you want to build trust with your boss and you want to be able to have open conversations about concerns, be solution oriented. Make sure that you're approaching the conversation not just what can come across as complaining, which a lot of people do, but you are solutions oriented. I've noticed this. This is my observation and the impact that it's having. And here are some ideas that I have of what we might do to be able to overcome that or to have a more positive impact on the team or on our clients or so on. So being able to lead up, no matter your role in the organization, might be as simple as coming to the table with solutions if the person that is a leader to you is open to that. I definitely have some people in my circle who have come to me and shared that their supervisors are just not interested in hearing a word they have to say, not interested in their solutions, and that's just not going to work for the way that that person leads. You know, that person has their own things going on and we can't control their behavior. All we can do is control our own and how we choose to approach it. So I was really helping this friend with their questioning to be able to, model questioning, and maybe the supervisor will begin to start asking themselves some of those questions so that this individual doesn't have to directly point out ways in which the leader is maybe bringing the team down or impacting them in a negative way. If you're trying to lead across, so I've just talked about leading up, but now you're trying to lead across. That can look like sharing resources with teammates, making sure they have the resources they need to be successful, checking in on them, encouraging them. That to me is very strong and powerful influence, and can be seen as supportive by a team that builds up the trust for you to then come to the table with new ideas later, and people to know that you have good intentions. And then if you consider leading down, meaning maybe you're in a middle management position, and you're thinking about those you supervise, well, what can that influence look like from there? So it might look like mentorship, supporting with onboarding others, really being able to focus on empowering people, not always directing them. This makes me think about the difference between a coach and a consultant. I prefer to not be a consultant. I prefer to ask questions and coach and guide and let people come up with solutions on their own that they're bought into. There are some personalities I work with that just doesn't work for. And I end up wearing that consulting hat. But when thinking about leading down, think about encouraging people, giving them tools, and empowering them to make decisions, empowering them to make mistakes, see the impact that it has, and reflect together on what can be done differently in the future. So I know those are very short and sweet examples, but there are ways to lead up, across, and down, no matter where you are in an organization. And we talk about this on the podcast all the time, but every single interaction is an opportunity to influence those around you and to build greater trust, right? You're either building it up or you're breaking it down. So as you pass someone in the hallway and have a quick chat or a comment that you make in a meeting, everything that you say can make a difference in how you're perceived by others. So being intentional about creating a positive impact and using your words in a positive way in the organization to build strength as a team rather than further breaking it down. So it doesn't have to be some grand gesture. It can be something super simple, just even the tone in an email that you choose to send. Reread your email. Make sure you feel good about the tone. I actually had used ChatGPT one time to read an email I had written and asked it what tone came across, because I was concerned about how it was coming across. And it was very important that in that email that I was approaching it with some sensitivity. And so even, AI can give you feedback on your tone. That's just a great exercise in general, to throw a couple of emails in there that you've written and ask it to describe what your overall tone is and how you're getting your message across. That could be a great self-reflection to see how you might be perceived by others in written communication. So hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas of how you can shift from the spot where you feel like authority is given to you and just move towards taking ownership, showing what you are capable of even without power and authority. Take ownership of the results, not just the responsibilities that are given to you. So think about that. Is there something that you would like to take greater ownership of within your organization without waiting for approval from someone else? I know a lot of people say that you don't ask for permission, you ask for forgiveness. Well, I don't know. It's true. I've definitely done that many times where I've done what I felt was right, and I've known that it might not be something that others would choose to do, but it felt right and in alignment with what I valued at the time. So after the fact, no matter what the outcome was, I felt good about it. So sometimes we just need to jump in there and do things without approval and work toward the results that we're looking for. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of what you can be doing, and maybe just a little bit more confidence that you can make a difference no matter where you are. So I want to switch gears a little bit and think about the leadership unscripted. So these are our listener submitted scenarios where people write in questions or challenges that they're facing, and myself and a guest, or just myself, I can provide some feedback and some ideas of how they might approach this. So this week, let me choose a random name here. I always look in my bookcase for Sean for a random name. Sean says, I want to give my team more feedback, but I hate conflict and worry that they're going to take it the wrong way. What's the best way to have these conversations without creating drama? Well, this really kind of does connect back to what I'm talking about today. I didn't do that intentionally, by the way. Obviously, this person wants to see some changes, but is afraid to approach it without maybe it backfiring. So this person, it sounds like, they might be a leader, they might be in a leadership position, and they want to give their team feedback from that leadership position, or maybe not. But either way, I think considering the collective we, it's our shared goals that we're working towards, using we language instead of you language when bringing a concern up can make a difference in how it's received by others. So, we have a common goal here. We're working together to do this. And I think we need to look at, other ways to approach this or approach that. Really what I had shared earlier about asking questions, the value of asking questions and letting other people come up with ideas, or letting them even see that there are areas of opportunity on their own. So, asking questions like, what's working well for us as a team, or what is something that you feel that we not that you feel you can improve? What can we improve about the way we're working together as a team? what can we do about that? What actions can we take? Everything, again, being the collective we, but letting them come up with the ideas. Obviously, we want to celebrate the wins before jumping into the things that we can improve upon. I shared that in a previous episode. I failed miserably in that area after the Tri-State Leadership Summit, and I did a whole episode on celebrating the wins before trying to fix things that we need to change. But make sure you're celebrating wins, you're identifying what's going well before you come to the table with things that you feel the team can improve upon. But if you do approach it as a reflective exercise where you spend time asking the team, what are some things we can celebrate? What do you think is going well? What are our strengths as a team? That's naturally going to focus on that end before you get to the areas of improvement. And then I would finally say, in order for accountability, to set next steps together. So if it comes out in conversation that they do feel there are areas for improvement and it's agreed upon in the group, and you agree upon the actions that need to be taken, put together some accountability for that. How will we hold each other accountable? What are we looking for? If we notice that someone isn't following through, how might we respond to that as a team? Let's decide now, so when it happens, or if it happens, we know how to react and we can expect accountability from one another. Because if I am not following through on what I'm supposed to be doing, I want someone to make me aware of that and remind me and help keep me on track. So you obviously want to be able to do the same for others. So those are just a couple of ideas. I hope that is helpful in navigating that. I haven't met a lot of people who love conflict and like creating conflict by pointing out areas of improvement for a team, but it really is in how you choose to bring it up. And if you've created a culture of reflection and, consistent improvement over time, then it does become easier after you've done that a few times, and it's what the team expects from you. They expect that we're going to, be a culture of continuous learners, always looking for growth. Okay, so that's our Leadership Unscripted for today. If you have a question, please submit it. We're looking for your challenges that we can help unpack, and it might actually lead to a specific topic for an episode as well. You can submit those to info@branchingoutpodcast.com. Again, that's info@branchingoutpodcast.com. Another segment that I like to do is leadership in the wild. And so this week, I want to just zoom in on some leadership that I saw in action. And I went to a B&I regional event just this week. I stepped away. This event was really, it was a celebration. It was recognition for 14 different chapters in our region. But before we got to the recognition and celebration, it was a morning of networking. We had lunch together. We had, I think it was like 4 hours of education. So it was a nice long day with a variety of, celebrating, learning, networking, great event. But what I just want to point out that I noticed at that event was the recognition piece. It was great to see how many people in that room truly live out the giver's gain concept and that value that is a part of the B&I mindset. And so for those of you that don't know B&I is Business Networking International. There are chapters all over the world. It was started by Dr. Ivan Misner, and there are books that he's written out there. There's all sorts of resources you can look up. And B&I is a very structured networking group. You're not going to find a more structured group than that. But with that structure comes great accountability And to me, accountability means greater results. So I've been a part of groups that are less structured in the past. And yes, it feels great to not have as much required of you. But at the same time, when you don't have that, people just don't perform. It's like they don't value the membership as much, so they don't put forth as much effort, and you just don't see the same results. So I've seen BNI be very helpful. But going back to that recognition event, the concept of giver's gain is that we focus on giving more than receiving. So we talked about it in the education portion that day. Briefly, people were talking about when you go to a one-to-one, when you're sitting down one-on-one with someone, that the focus isn't me teaching you all about myself and teaching you how to sell me or to find my ideal client for me, that the purpose of that meeting is for you to learn about the other person, to explore what their goals are, learn about their accomplishments, their interests, the networks that they have, the skill sets that they have, and really support them in reaching their goals. But when the focus is the other person, you're giving, right? And the concept is that givers do ultimately gain. When we give to others, I've seen it many times before. When I give to others or when others give to me, this is a perfect example. When someone gives to me, I immediately feel like I owe them something. Like I need to be looking for an opportunity to give back. And it will weigh heavily on me if I don't feel like it's an equal relationship. If I've been given more than I have given to them, I feel like there's an imbalance and I need to find a way to balance it out again. I never want to be seen as that person who only comes around when they need something. It's not a great feeling. I was surrounded by a lot of people that night that truly were there to give and were recognized for the giving that they have been doing. The people that sit down in those one-to-ones and the focus is always on the other person. The people who are constantly out there looking for opportunities for someone else. It's like an unpaid sales team. I being a solopreneur and then, building up some folks around me and giving them, the tools that they need to be able to support me with the services I deliver. I don't have someone out there selling me. I can't pay a full-time salesperson to be out there selling me, but I have a group of 20-some individuals that I see on a weekly basis who know my business very well, and they can have their ears open for opportunities for me. Same, the opposite direction, right? I go there every week and I'm taking notes and I'm learning about what they're looking for, and it's not always the same. It changes over time. But I just love seeing givers gain in action. It's easy to say. And I do think that there are people that are in BNI and don't really live out that value. Of course, you're going to see that everywhere. But I felt like I was in a room with more givers than I might typically be around, and that was amazing. So this is just a general shout out to our BNI region. Russ Maynard has done a great job of leading our region. He is always seeking feedback, has come to me many times and asked for my feedback on, ways that different education events have gone. He, approached me at this event and asked me feedback. How's it going? I want to talk to you later about what you notice. It's that idea of constant growth and improvement. He lives it, and it's really cool to see the impact that BNI has had on his life as well. So just a shout out to BNI in our region. Thank you for leading us so well and sharing that value with us so it can be a part of the way in which we run our businesses. And finally, I want to close out today with our branching out challenge, going back to leading from the middle or leading from wherever you are. I challenge you to think about something that you would like to see change for the better. And maybe it's something that you haven't felt you could come forward with before in any setting. It doesn't have to just be in a business. It could be in your church. It could be anywhere in the community, a board that you serve on. I just encourage you to think about what you would change and think about how you can more intentionally model what you wish to see, or bring questions to the table that gets the peers around you to really consider a different way of approaching things, but also have some solutions and ideas in mind when you come forward as well. That's what I challenge you to this week. I'd love to hear your feedback if you end up applying that, and let me know how it works for you and what change you are able to create from where you are. As always, I hope that you found value in today's episode. If you think someone would benefit from hearing more on this topic, please share this episode with them. We are on Spotify and all the places where you find your podcasts, but also on YouTube. So if you want to see the video version, if you're not watching it right now, it can be found there. As always, our episodes are released every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you subscribe so you get those notifications. I actually realized recently that our links, our RSS feed, has not been going to our social media consistently for about the past month for some reason. I was totally unaware of that. We're trying to get that fixed. We've tried to update it a couple times and something is not working, though it's worked for, a year and a half or so without problems. It's suddenly not connecting properly. So if you typically wait to see a Facebook notification that we've released an episode, maybe go directly to the podcast platforms and subscribe so you're getting notifications there instead, just in case the RSS feed doesn't come through as it's supposed to. So just a little public service announcement there, because we don't want you to miss episodes. We haven't skipped a week. So if you thought that we had been skipping because you've been following on Facebook, maybe we have to just try a different method, at least temporarily. All right. Well, thank you for joining and listening through to the end of the episode. I know that we all have a limited amount of time available, and the fact that you chose to spend time listening to this is very meaningful, and I hope you feel it was a good use of your time. Until next time, keep branching out.